Yo, it's that shit, my boy. I like this. Yeah, cause I say that I'm up. Yo, I'm up. Can I say that I'm up? Yeah. Check this out right here. Here we go again, people. The vibes is here. Man, what's going on, y'all? Welcome to Shooting the Breeze. It's your man, Nighttime. I want to welcome you guys back to my page. As you can already tell by the thumbnail, we're going to talk about a couple of different things today in the sports world. I want to talk about the OKC versus the Spurs. OKC suffered their third straight loss of the season to the San Antonio Spurs. I want to get into that today. Also, I want to touch on in the hip hop world to kind of swing to that side. I want to touch on the Jim Jones, Maino, Fab, Davies, and the whole 50 Cent thing. I want to tap in and kind of give and weigh my perspective on that. But before I start, I also want to make sure that you guys comment, like, subscribe to the page, turn on your notifications if you rock with this type of content. Here, this is where we talk about culture, sports, life, perspective, just from a grown man's lens. I'm not here to chase any rumors or have a viral moment. I'm just more or less here to slow things down and actually talk through what's happening and give my take. And if you must know, also, I am a hip hop artist. You can hear um, a little portion of one of my songs to open up this video called I'm Up. That's going to be on my album called The Time Is Now, which you can also hear a snippet of that at the end of this video, which drops first quarter of 2026, produced by my man Half Breed on PvP Recordings. Half Breed, West Coast extraordinary producer out there doing this thing. But anyway, I want to get into it real quick. Um, and I think I want to start with the whole Maino, Jim Jones, Fab, Davies against 50, or I want to, don't even want to say against 50. I'll just say their little situation that's going on. So to kind of recap this whole thing, it initiated with DJ Akademiks, and if anybody is familiar with Akademiks, Akademiks is a popular podcaster in the hip hop space. He's really built a huge following off of being extremely provocative, um, in his encounters with, various hip hop guys in the industry. And one of the things that he's noted for is getting into it with a lot of the OGs in hip hop culture. It's kind of that whole, the young has issue with the old has issue with the young. A lot of that dynamic that's been, taking place on the internet, very polarizing perspectives. But in many cases, in many videos that I've seen out of Akademiks, he's taking shots at a lot of the older dudes in terms of, questioning how they dress, um, you know, them coming into his space, which is the podcasting space or the nerd space. And these guys are like former hip hop, maybe hip hop legends or guys who've been in the game for a long time. And they're entering into this space as, former street dudes and um, as well. And they're coming into the whole podcaster space. And honestly, the connotation that I get is he's not, when I say he, Akademiks is not very fond of these guys coming into this space, because he's like, hey man, this is my world. This is what I built. I'm the cool dude in this space. So he took some shots at guys like Fab. I think Fab was wearing a headband, and he talked about Fab headbands are to keep sweat off your head while you're wearing a headband in a club. And he just took shots at these guys and how they dress, and they're former street dudes, and pretty much like, you guys look corny, you old men. Why you coming into this space? You guys look crazy. And then obviously, Mano, he got at Akademiks with aggression, pretty much saying, look man, you look like, he said a whole bunch of things about Akademiks and his body type, not being the most in shape dude, and just really saying some inflammatory things towards DJ Academics and the things of that nature. And he was going in, and then to kind of go forward, um, Maino, Jim Jones, Fab, they have a show called Let's Rap About It. It's a new podcast show that they put together, and pretty much I like the premise of the show in terms of their approach, and their approach to me is just four bruhs sitting around just talking about how they would respond to particular situations. And I know Mano and Jim, they have had their share of controversy, but again, based on the way they explain the show and kind of the concept of the show, it seems like it was more lighthearted. Hey, it's just bros just really responding to how we would handle certain situations. And one of the things that came up was a documentary. And if someone did a documentary about yourself that kind of portrayed you in a bad light or whatever the case may be, how would you how what are your thoughts on that? So the guys went around, they talked about their perspective on, I think generally speaking, they felt like a person shouldn't be able to control your narrative, right? If you don't have any input in it, they shouldn't be able to say these things about this individual. And obviously, we know 50 Cent is doing a doc or has done a documentary on Diddy, which is on Netflix. And nonetheless, 50 got word of that conversation, and he took shots at uh, Jim Jones and Mano, more specifically. He kind of directed the shots towards him. I think he had a video of Jim saying he got his house foreclosed on, stuff like that. So, I think he called Jim a groupie. And then, to move on further, he said that these guys are squatters, right? And basically, he just indicated that these guys occupy a building that they don't, personally, or legally, are not occupying it legally, right? So he said that these guys owe like 200 and some $1,000 um, to occupy and they haven't paid it. He put a big definition of what squatters meant, what have you, and that whole thing went viral. And obviously, people who side with 50 Cent, they were like 50. He, he bodied them dudes. He owned them, whatever the terminology that these guys use, but it went viral nonetheless. And then I saw their podcast actually today, and I like how they approached it. I think Fab kind of set it up really well by starting off saying, something along the lines of, welcome to to the Squatters podcast or something like that. But more or less kind of, you know, kind of coming at it from a, subliminal friendly competition perspective and also a funny perspective by mentioning the whole squatters thing. And then it kind of gave life to the other guys laughing about it, blah, blah, blah. And, just having fun with it. So, I thought that was a really kind of a witty approach. But the kicker, to me, was four dudes did this freestyle. Each guy had their own freestyle to 50's beats. I think Mano went first. He was rocking over, obviously, they're rocking over 50 tracks. The second the dude was Jim Jones. Dave East went third, and then Fab went fourth. So you guys got to check out that video. It was pretty dope. Um, I thought I thought everybody did a really good job. But if I had to pick who I thought kind of really went in, obviously Fab to me, Fabulous bodied his. Like Fab, Fab is that dude. I got Fab actually as my top 5 favorite rapper of all time. You guys deal with that, how you want to deal with that, whatever. Come for me in the comments. It's all good. But to me, Fab really ain't said a weak bar in my personal opinion. punchlines, the aura raps. Fab is really one of the best. I would argue that he may be one of the best aura rappers, um, honestly, in the history of in the history of hip hop. Fab is a tough dude. You know, he's got his own lane, but nonetheless, I digress. Um, Fab to me annihilated that joint, but I'm gonna honestly say my second favorite was Jim. Jim was saying Jim was saying some shit. It's- I'm not gonna even lie, man. Jim was saying some shit in his freestyle, and I actually liked his. I would say right behind Fabulous, I like Jim's. Not that Jim was going super crazy, but I just like the swag that Jim came with, and some of the things that he mentioned um, in that freestyle over that 50 Cent track. And Dave was dope as well. Maino was nice. But if I had to pick, I'd say Fab 1, Jim 2, Dave 3, Maino 4. That would be the order um, of my enjoyment in terms of how those dudes displayed. But nonetheless, man, shout out to the OGs, man, for doing their thing. I thought they had a very mature response back to 50 Cent, just really having fun with it. I'll be curious to see what 50 Cent has to say in reply to them. Is he going to come with just memes and jokes, or is he going to reply back to them with some bars and spit something? I don't know. We'll wait and see. My guess 50 is going to probably, do something to him, you know, from the perspective of jokes and memes and things of that nature. Whatever it's going to be super petty. That would be my guess. All right. So done with that. Last topic I want to move on to, guys, is the OKC Thunder versus the Spurs. The Spurs played OKC today. Um, and it's the third straight loss by OKC. Third straight loss, guys. Okay. I think the final score was 117-102. The Spurs just, whipped them boys in San Antonio a couple of days ago. San Antonio had the game. I'm sorry, the OKC had the game today, and they lost on their home floor, 117-102. So let me guys give you a little takeaway. So you know, I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Obviously, want to see the Bucks be successful. Obviously, that's not happening. But nonetheless, I'm a big Shea Gilgeous-Alexander fan. I think to me, Shea has the smoothest game in the NBA. Smooth handles. His package is crazy. Um, I personally believe that Shea is the best player in the league. That's my perspective. Come for me in the comments as well for that. I don't care. But, you know, Shea is that dude. And I really love OKC. I love the culture that they built over there. I love the culture of these young guys that are buying into the system. And I love the fact that they bring other pieces into the mix that also buy into the system. So, it's perfect. And one of the things that I noticed when they play the San Antonio Spurs is the San Antonio Spurs are built similar. They have a lot of size, they're quick, they get out and run, they share the ball, and they're a community of young guys. These guys are young, man, and obviously with the exception of Harrison Barnes, he's the OG on the team. But other than that, man, these dudes are super young, and we obviously can talk about um, the obvious with, Wimby. We know Wimby's a freak. Wimby is the future. He's the guy that's going to take the franchise to the next level. I see this guy winning a championship someday. He's playing with a tremendous amount of confidence. Obviously, his big thing is he has to stay healthy. That's one of the key things. But let me get back to this game. To me, OKC got off to a really good start in this game, and I think they've got off to some pretty solid starts. in a few of these matchups, but as the game goes on, they can't get away or contain the Spurs over a period of 48 minutes. You start to see like OKC is here. The Spurs catch them. OKC moves ahead again. Spurs kind of catch them again, but then the Spurs eventually just, pass them by, and OKC finds themselves in a dogfight. They can't claw back into the game. And I bring this up because I think we have an interesting thing that's taking place in the NBA right now. We are seeing that the key to running a successful organization, and I hope that this carries on, is that you can build a small market team or a mid-sized market team with guys with high IQ, guys who buy into the system, and guys who are young. To me, I can't. I think this is a maybe a little bit of a sign of kind of getting rid of the high maintenance superstar, the diva, so to speak, and implementing a group of guys who really understand their position and they're young. I'm starting to see that because if you look at OKC and you look at how they were able to be so successful over, the course of, 4 or 5 years, and, eventually they won a championship, the prior season, they embody all of those principles. You have, again, a really good core of guys who don't come off as we have major egos or anything like that. Everybody knows that Shea's the guy. They know, Jay Williams is number two, and they know Chet's the third guy. And then you have a really good core of other pieces, who, contribute, to this team. But in looking at, and again, I know it's early, and I think OKC is going to bounce back. But in looking at this, man, OKC, I think they're better than honestly everybody in the league, with the exception of San Antonio right now. San Antonio is dangerous. They're a young team. They play the right way, high IQ, buy in. Okay. And to me, I think one of the biggest, and I know, like I said, Victor is the obvious. He's, you know, he's the franchise guy. But I'm gonna tell you something. I think a big reason to why this all works outside of Wimby is De'Aaron Fox. All right. De'Aaron Fox, this young man can go. He's a perfect fit for this Spurs team. De'Aaron Fox is a guy, high character, high IQ. He plays the right way, and he's a perfect floor general for the San Antonio Spurs. And I think he's one of the biggest reasons why this team is able to move the way they move. I mean, this guy dictates pace. He's probably, arguably, one of the fastest, if not the fastest, point guard in the league. Okay, with the ball, he's a floor general. He controls pace. He makes the right passes. And what's unique about De'Aaron Fox is that when he came into the league, De'Aaron Fox couldn't shoot worth shit. He was not a good shooter. He was just a fast guy. He can get from point A to point B quickly and get to the cup. Now this guy's turned into a complete point guard. He can flat out stick the three. He's got great footwork. He makes the proper pass. I mean, he gets everybody involved. And to me, when you have a guy like that who can set the table, create his own shot, but also set it for others, and then he allows Wimby to be who Wimby is, and Wemby can, really, focus in on his crazy traits, 6'4", crazy long wingspan, shot blocker, can do just a multitude of other things. De'Aaron Fox allows those guys to, in my opinion, to really position themselves and to really be the best at what they do when they're on the floor, because he keeps the defense honest with his speed and just his smarts. Um, Harrison Barnes, another great glue guy. Harrison Barnes, he won a championship in 2015 with the Golden State Warriors. He's an excellent addition to this team. Excellent glue guy. To me, he gives them a different dimension, that they didn't have in some of those down years under Popovich. He gives them, again, a guy with championship experience, veteran experience, and Harrison Barnes, he can stick to three. Also, Harrison Barnes is really good around the basket. He gives them that. But the guy, outside of, you know, like Dylan Harper and I can't think of the other kid. I think it's Devin Vassell. Those guys are also good glue guys. But the one dude, to me, man, who plays like a man amongst boys, a young boy, and that's Stephon Castle. That young man, he plays like a veteran. He really does. I mean, he can shoot the ball. He's a good defender. He's just a tough kid. And OKC, as we start to, get deeper into the season, like I said, I think that they're better than every team in the NBA, with the exception of the San Antonio Spurs right now. The Spurs are just the Spurs really give these guys some matchup problems, and I think it starts with De'Aaron Fox. He's, I mean, they don't really have or haven't found an answer for him to slow him down and to get him off rhythm. Um, but also too, when you look at OKC and how they played tonight, Shea didn't have a great game. I think Shea only had like 22 points. Shea Will struggled on the floor. He also struggled from the free throw line. I mean, he almost shot one. I think one free throw was almost like an air ball. I think it tipped the rim, but he didn't play very well. His shooting has not really been there since he's been back. And then Chet didn't really play uh, well either. So their big three didn't play very well. Those three have to be clicking, and then also the bench didn't really give them much. Um, Alex Caruso, he's like their Harrison Barnes, right? But he was shooting a lot of bricks, and really the team, for 3 point, they just really struggled. They had a lot of wide open shots, and they just couldn't knock down shots. And my thing is, right now, the San Antonio Spurs, to me, they're kind of like a OKC in terms of how they play. Again, young, they're quick, they get out on the floor, and I think they're faster than OKC. So they're able to really get out in transition and get easy buckets. You have a lot of good shooters on the floor, and you have guys who can just kind of hurt you in a multitude of ways. And I think, OKC is kind of, looking at, man, like, these guys are potentially going to be in our way. Right now, I think San Antonio Spurs sit number two in the Western Conference standings. I think with seven losses, and right now OKC has 5 losses, and out of those 5 losses, three have come to the San Antonio Spurs. So I don't know, guys. It's going to be very interesting. I know I kind of went a little bit long, but I'm just really interested to see how the season unfolds with those two particular teams. Will they meet in the playoffs, possibly a Western Conference Finals? I think that would be an epic Western Conference Finals if these two were to pair off. I know the large market teams don't really want to hear that your New Yorks and um, stuff like that. But I'm a basketball fan. I'm a fan of the game, and I love execution. And I would love to see those two teams pair off in the Western Conference Finals. I think it would be epic for basketball fans. Probably not viewership, but I think from a basketball fan perspective, I think a lot of people would love to see that matchup. You guys let me know. But that's it. You guys Hope you guys got a lot of good Christmas gifts. I hope you had a good time with your families. I know a lot of you guys are going to be getting back to work next week, but nonetheless, guys, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Like I said, turn on those notifications for the next upcoming Shooting the Breeze with your man Nighttime. And that's all I got, man. Y'all be easy. Comment.
The words that I speak is power, vivid as cameras, aggression and ambition upload piles of stamina. The panorama's what I'm seeing up top, because the bottom it was covered with slop plus confrontational ops. The road ahead is possibilities, finesse your progress, the hit goes for memories. The tendency is stagnation, limited sensation, a lock is on, I know what a combination. Obligation, what you facing, but you be rarely chasing. Not even moving at a turtle's pacing, it's so problematic. The mental fog and the brain static, the able body damage kinda tragic. Now you fighting over Popeyes, dry skin looking cockeyed. Decisions that you make is rolling snake eyes. Can't even get a job at Five Guys. I guess I can't be surprised, procrastination is the thief of your time.